Check out this shirt. Isn't it pretty awesome? Just picked it up in Vancouver the other day. Oh yeah. Anyway, hopefully that's not some sort of copyright material that I'm not allowed to show and have to delete the video for, but anywho, I just wanted to have just a basic rundown explanation of my stance. The more I study religions, the more I am convinced that man never worshipped anything but himself. A quote by someone named Sir Richard Burton, who lived between 1812 and 1890. That's all I got on that. It's my personal choice as an individual organism to not participate in religious belief or activities. I don't believe they work. You may, that's fine. Just don't let your belief influence you to act against people who don't believe the same way as you, or ally yourself with ancient books that promote discrimination. This is a planet filled with billions of individual human organisms. How many of those are going to agree on everything? Especially anything that hasn't even been verified by reality yet. Being introduced to religion later than most kids, I had already built up my reasoning and judgment system to know monsters don't really exist. Leprechauns don't really exist, fairies don't exist, Santa doesn't exist, angels don't exist, devils don't exist, and dragons don't exist. Damn it. And, phew, the little kid who says his mom, oops, I'm skipping ahead. So, when the first kid to ask me if I believe in God got angry at me for saying no, and almost foamed at the mouth, trying his best to describe some being he ultimately was never going to show me, no matter how many times I asked, I knew then that gods most likely didn't exist either. All at about 8 years old, I could tell that it was just another one of those stories, just like that one kid in school who always said stuff like his mom bought him 100 bikes, but when you ask him to show you, he says he can't, because they're at his uncle's house far away, so he can't show you right now, you know? No experience in my life since then has ever given me any indication that a personal God rules over any aspect of my life, the lives of others, or anything that we can determine to exist in this universe. Well, not beyond people desperately trying to convince me of those 100 bikes that are so amazing and that I suck for not having 100 bikes, but having them would make my life so much better, but I'm not allowed to see them until I die. When you step back and look at all the stories, you realize the main aspects of the main religions are either just ways to divide people or ways to explain a series of loopholes that they call religion. One loophole creates a problem that needs another loophole, which then must have its own excuse created for, which creates another loophole. If God is good, why does he allow evil? He gave us free will. Why did he program us to be tempted by evil? Because it's a test, so he shows us he loves us by allowing the possibility of torturing our souls forever. He doesn't torture, it's Satan. So like a rapist, your God gives us two options: follow him and support bigotry, racism, genocide, and slavery, and everything I stand against, or be tortured forever after I die. Why does he allow Satan to torture any of the souls he claims to love indefinitely? He doesn't let it happen. It's our free will. It's our fault. Which means he lets us because he has the power to stop us. So why doesn't he stop evil? God has a plan for all of us. Sometimes evil is needed to make more good. If God has a plan for me, how do I then have free will? If I fail to complete his plan, does that mean he fails at creating a human who can understand his plan? Can a perfect being fail? Are you allowed to think he can fail if you must believe he is perfect? If you think slavery is evil, are you allowed to call your God wrong on the subject? Is sin really our fault when he designed us to crave the very things he orders us to resist? If you reject most of the laws spoken by your God, Yahweh himself in the Old Testament, are you not telling God that he is wrong? Doesn't this all just crumble before your eyes? If not, you must have been indoctrinated before you were old enough to properly develop your reasoning skills, before learning the lesson people you trust do sometimes lie. Or perhaps you suffered a traumatic situation and turned to an idea or a group of people who comforted you for an important period in your life, a time when you needed a new addiction to kick an old one while you were healing. Either way, you grew up with these people. Either way, you either grew up with these people encouraging these beliefs or went through a heavily emotional period with them, and your inner ape is telling you you must stick with those who protected and comforted you, and betraying that is bad, even what the group majority thinks of other things. It's understandable. I'm a monkey too. We share these kinds of feelings. Only we just call it fandom nowadays. But we know it's all our imagination. Deep down, you know praying and feeling God's presence is just your imagination. But when your mind wanders to these valid thoughts, you fight them because you don't want to offend your tribal community family and possibly be kicked out or shunned for not thinking the right thing. Again, I totally understand. But that's what made me finally realize. I always understood from the first prayer that the feeling that a God is watching me or listening to me or thinking about me or putting thoughts in my head, they were all imaginary. I myself was imagining every feeling I had about God, every word he spoke to me, every word I, put in my brain that I thought that he might want to say to me. That's all I realized it is. I knew it true to my bones. Atheistic thinking was just irreversible from there. And so then I started feeling alone. Not in any sort of spiritual alone sense. I never missed God because I never met God, and neither have you. But alone among other humans who bought into this demonstrably false fantasy and weren't even questioning its bold-faced encouragement to believe things without proof, while promoting several forms of discrimination on the side. Alone because those who were my friends stopped being as friendly, simply because I didn't believe in obvious ancient myths involving magical events relabeled miracles. Shunned and made fun of because I found having a relationship with my original invisible friend, Kevin, to be much more fulfilling than asking a non-responsive Jesus for his thoughts. While I didn't believe in Kevin even at that point either, my point is just that it's easier to get answers from a character you've made up. Jesus was always someone else's character. What message was I supposed to invent while I waited and heard absolutely nothing? But things are looking up for free thinkers. More and more people are rejecting silly ideas such as gods, throwing their bigotries away with them, and the internet has helped build relationships and spread the honest evidence and facts across the world. We can stop feeling so isolated in our perfectly rational opinion on a particular mythical being among other humans who don't understand this being is imaginary. If their doctrine didn't demand them to pester us about belief in what they believe, we would have no problem with Christians or Muslims or Jews believing what they want. But that's the problem. Bigotry is written into their dogma, be it against other races, religions, genders, gender preferences, and their versions of their God, their God or gods, order them to bother all these other people about it, without giving any proof that this God even exists. Most atheists have no problems with pagans or Buddhists or followers of Hinduism or Shinto, mainly because we've never been verbally abused by a practicing witch for not believing in what she or he believes in. Every practicing witch I've encountered has always been peaceful, loving, strong, and confident from what they imagine to believe, often with a bit of an ego or flair for the dramatic, but usually much nicer than the majority of the Christian population I've encountered. A witch will tell you what they believe only if you ask. They may say, their own prayers here and there, but they'll try to keep it out of your way. And they do not judge whether or not you believe the same, and they are not encouraged to judge so, unlike some ancient religions based on books that encourage that have been already mentioned. Obviously, every person values another person more if they share a similar idea about something. So a witch will get along better with another witch more than they'll go along with a Christian, or maybe even an atheist. A Christian will get along better with a Christian. An atheist may or may not get along with another atheist because there's no real rule book for atheism for people who don't believe in gods. The only reason atheists ever band together is when religion is doing its job of hurting people again. But banding together is just how our apish survival bonds are formed. Friends via similar interests. That does not make it a religion. By that definition, a gay bar is a church. An idea so ignorant that only a creationist could believe it. Unless it was a gay bar in the theme of a church, and that would be pretty hilarious. But I bet that's out there already. But yeah, it's the same case with atheism, which isn't really an ism because all it means is lacking a belief in a deity. Buddhists it's more like atheistic thinking. That's the term that my brain is most comfortable with, atheistic thinking, because it's not an ism. There's no philosophy behind it. Buddhists are atheists. They believe in no gods. They honor the man Buddha and perhaps believe in his spirit, but they do not acknowledge him as a god. Rational skepticism is the true culprit that the religious fundamentalists tend to hate the most because it shows them to their faces the flaws, ridiculous contradiction, and the outright lies and weak arguments of their very faith, which is why reason is the true enemy of faith has been showing up on so many church signs lately. The Godfathers are getting nervous. The idea that they might have to make a choice to agree with the logical conclusion that gods and religions are imaginary, or keep spouting the silly barbaric stories about Yahweh and his particular bigotries, just terrifies them. Remember that next time you see a church making any money, a priest with a shiny expensive robe or a giant hat, flashy new car with a designated parking spot, how Christian of him or her, a giant church with golden crosses and angels or giant movie screens, and make note of all the homeless who still remain in the streets of that community. Remember next time you think about religion, that it is all maintained by a species whose members will for the most part try to get along, while others will try to risk their own freedom by grabbing for the easy win and stepping on those around them to get it. Getting along without religion influencing the non-religious, or those whose existence the religion disagrees with, has certainly got us far as a tolerant, open society where mortality rates are at record lows compared to more religious times or even more religious places on earth right now. Religious possessiveness, supported by biblical law, is what allowed people to justify slavery for so long. Discrimination against someone just because they are born a certain way sure is a stupid thing to do. We all agree on that point, except for the God written in the Bible. We tell him he's wrong about racism all the time, and his most devout followers when it comes to homosexuals. Too many people still believe hating gays is protected as a religious belief, and too many more people are willing to just accept that horrifying and historically dangerous justification as an answer, and way too many more people are willing to still ally themselves with these people who are following the religion more than they are, calling themselves Christians, just like a person's claiming they're a Nazi, but also claiming not to be racist. Not to follow, like, if you're not going to follow the religion, why are you calling yourself their name? Why are you putting your numbers into their support? We still have a long way to go, but there's hope that people will shake these silly stories that only children could take seriously without doubting their own mental status. Tell me you haven't felt like this even once, thinking about Jonah and that big fish, or Immaculate Conception and walking on water, and to every animal on one boat. Stories that promote nice, happy lessons on the outside until you read the whole story, but also encourage exclusionism and negative judgment based on spiritual preference, lack thereof, and obsolete rules that falsely diagnose the causes of actual harm, such as demons instead of allergies, or atheists instead of stuff that's actually causing trouble. Why must we still use a book that combines the happy, positive lessons of love with the shameful lessons of bigotry? Why would you choose to? That's my question. How can it be considered tolerance if it's only tolerance for only members of that specific religion, and not to other religions or lack of religion, or the types of people that your religion arbitrarily calls evil, without actually causing evil? Why do we let them say things unchallenged like Christianity is under attack? Our majority religion, which is politically influential and highly intolerant of other belief systems, actively trying to stamp them out wherever we can find them, and able to undermine the teaching of reality in schools, is the real victim here. Praise Jesus. We need to point at people who say things like that and laugh, and so that others know to laugh at them too. To stand strong against these giant brick walls who claim to be as frail as the daisies these bricks keep falling on. Believe in a God if there's no way you can see proceeding through life without believing in one. But please don't ally yourself with the gods who are known for spreading bigotry as law, such as Yahweh and Allah of the Bible and the Quran, Christianity, Judaism, and Islam. Don't promote books that contain these bigotry-inspired laws, like the Bible or Quran. Don't let what you believe force you to think you must invade someone's space or time without their consent unless they are actually causing harm to someone who hasn't given permission to be harmed. Morality should be centered around consent. I shouldn't have to care about what you believe, and I don't want to have to care anymore. But as long as books like the Bible and Quran are being taught to children as being true, inspired words of their unquestionable God, such as loving lessons as murdering homosexuals and murdering non-believers and making rape victims marry their husbands, I will keep caring and I will keep fighting. You want a reason why atheists always talk about religion? That's it. As long as I'm not trying to kill you or rape someone, what care is it of yours? If I'm insulting the stories someone else wrote and you feel offended, that's not my fault. I'm not responsible for your realization that what you believe is ridiculous. I'm just showing it to you. Your painful realization that you're resisting with all your might is of your own creation. Your mind is working on that in spite of yourself. Perhaps with the help of stern elders, but also with the help of probably stern elders who also didn't know better and told you to stop questioning when you were too young to realize that questioning is all you have. You know better. Be understanding of everything, and you'll be less offended by things that actually don't matter.